And now for our next news special report.
In an era where news travels faster than light, not every warning should be ignored. When Tucker Carlson sounds an alarm, America listens. Today we dive deep into his unnerving message, hinting at what some see as the end times and an uncertain path to the 2024 elections. Is America truly at the brink? This is a report that no American can afford to miss. And stick around to the end because, trust me, you don't want to miss my final thought on this one. Now, before we dive deeper into today's pressing matter, a brief pause to recognize those who fuel our daily news updates, our sponsors. Think of them as the steel beams holding up our newsroom. Every time you lend them your trust, it's like giving us a nod, a push to keep digging for the truth. We've personally vouched for their products, people like Noble Gold Investments. You want to secure your financial future? They are the experts, and many have raved about their honest guidance, and now they're offering a free 5-ounce silver American the Beautiful bullion coin for qualified accounts. Check them out at nextnewsgold.com. Remember, supporting them means supporting us. With that said, let's jump back into the heart of the matter. Tucker Carlson, a voice that resonates with many, has brought forth a daunting perspective on the state of our republic. At the Daily Caller News Foundation Gala, he painted a picture that should capture every American's attention. He posed a direct question to the audience. If something really dramatic in your country happens, like young people can't get married, or buy houses, or see a future similar to their middle-class upbringing, then isn't that alarming? His poignant analogy draws attention to the actual issues our nation faces, stressing that the American dream is seemingly out of reach for many. He continued highlighting the economic instability that looms over our heads. He said, if your economy is on the verge of collapse, if your country is practically bankrupt, someone should raise an alarm. Watch.
I thought early, and I actually wrote a piece, not for the Daily Caller, I'm embarrassed, but for Politico, because I wanted to sort of drop a bomb into my neighbor's laps, and said, look, you may think that Trump is a ludicrous figure, and you may be onto something, but fundamentally what he's saying is not crazy at all, and in fact it's necessary. And if you don't want to have another revolution in the country, you should probably start paying a little bit of attention to what the people beyond Washington think. And I thought then, that was January of 2016, I thought that message was so rooted in common sense and also in observed reality that he would probably win, and he did. So I got a lot out of making that one call correctly in my life. And I really did think that we would see, say, 5 or 6, 7 years hence, a political system that more closely matched that idea. That the work product coming out of Washington would bear a little closer resemblance to what people wanted. And of course, the opposite happened. It's crazy how that idea just went away, and no one actually believed in it, which that blew my mind most of all, including a lot of people I thought were on my side. Including a lot of people who paid a lot of lip service to, put the country first. I personally don't like the term America first because I think it is loaded, but just common sense stuff. Like if something really dramatic in your country happens, like young people can't, get married, or buy houses or have any hope for a future that approaches, the middle-class upbringing they had, then you've got a huge problem and someone should be responding to that. And if your economy is on the brink of collapse, if your country's literally bankrupt, someone would say that. And if food inflation gets so crazy that, people are actually complaining about it, at least where I live. I spend a lot of the year in rural Maine. That doesn't make me an expert on the people or anything. I'm fundamentally a rich kid, obviously. But I do live among people who aren't rich, and they're legit upset about what groceries cost, for real, and what gas costs. And now that we've drained the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, they're about to find out that it could get way higher than it is. So these are just real concerns. It doesn't mean they're the only concerns, but they can't be completely ignored, or you're going to have a volatile situation on your hands, and why wouldn't you? Angry people who feel like they have no recourse, who don't think elections are real, and they're totally right, obviously. Let's stop lying. There's a lot of truth in that. And those people are, they have real grievances, legit grievances. And the only way to tamp those grievances down is not by creating some East German surveillance state, which we have done, or throwing people in prison for loitering outside the Capitol, which is their house after all. That doesn't work long term. It didn't work in Eastern Europe. It won't work here. The only thing that does work is kind of giving them not all they want, but some. Or how about this? Let's just start with pretending you care. But you know what doesn't work? Saying we're going to spend $100 billion in other countries. And I don't care how virtuous the case those countries make is, and I don't care how much I personally may agree or disagree with what those countries are doing. That is immaterial. The job, the moral duty of the people running a country is to look out for the people in that country, period. That's always true. And it doesn't mean they can't help other people or whatever, but if they pay no attention whatsoever, and in a moment when every person, 350 million Americans, everyone, regardless of political affiliation, can feel that something bad's coming, everybody knows that. Everybody knows that.
There's a palpable tension. Americans, all 350 million of us, irrespective of our political leanings, feel an undercurrent of something unsettling on the horizon. Carlson captures the sentiment perfectly. He says, if you've been to church in the last year, have you pondered about the end times recently? Because you can sense that an abrupt change is around the corner, and it's worrisome. Watch.
If you've been to church once in the last year, have you thought about the end times recently? Yes, you have. I'm serious. Because you can feel that abrupt change is coming, and that's very disconcerting. And so rather than reassure people that, we kind of got your back a little bit, by the way, we're going to spend $100 billion on other people. Oh, and the border security part is purely designed to make it easier for more people to come here illegitimately. That's freaking scary.
But Carlson doesn't stop at identifying the problem. He goes on to critique the government's response or lack thereof. In a stark observation, he pointed out that there's a growing sentiment that the government seems more invested overseas than in the welfare of its own citizens. He said the moral duty of those running a country is to prioritize its people. He also touched on the issue of societal fractures, saying that the country is becoming less cohesive due to its policies. Quote, at the same moment that our societal fabric is deteriorating, we've brought in millions of people here primarily for economic benefits. While they aren't the problem per se, their persistence doesn't enhance our unity. Watch.
But I don't know a single Israeli, and I say this as a compliment from my heart, I don't know a single Israeli who would jeopardize his own country's economy or safety for another nation. Because they care about their nation. Like, what the hell? I'm saying this as a compliment. But why would we do that? And when I see leaders on the left and right call for refugees from Gaza to be imported here, they're too dangerous for other countries, but we should take them? What are you saying? What are you saying about how you feel about my country? You're saying you consider it a trash bin. Throw the refuse there. No one else wants to deal with it. America will deal with it. Well, how about no? How about anyone who even suggests something like that? Speaking of a betrayal of your country, that's just telling me everything I need to know about how you feel about the United States of America. And I'm disgusted by it. Did you even think something like that? Really? And yet that is considered like kind of within bounds. And I notice there are a few Republicans who are like, well, that could happen, and we're going to pass legislation preemptively to make sure it doesn't. It's like, why would we even have that conversation? That is truly nuts. It's nuts. And more than anything, it's revealing of an attitude that is poisonous and that everyone else in the country can feel. They know it. And again, don't look to me because I live in my family summer house. I'm not pretending to be, what J.D. Vance actually is, which is a son of middle America, of working America. I'm not. But I try to observe, and I try to talk to people. I like people. And I can tell you, I can promise you, that the level of resentment toward those attitudes is extremely high. It's extremely high. And it absolutely should be.
Earlier at a Wilmington, Delaware event, Carlson shifted the conversation to the 2024 presidential election. He gave a forewarning, emphasizing the fragile state of the establishment and the unpredictability of the political landscape. While there's been considerable pressure and legal challenges against former President Donald Trump, the current president, Joe Biden, isn't faring well in the polls either. Carlson ominously pointed out that they've tried legal means, rather dubious ones, to sideline the competition, yet they're still not leading the race. But it's not just about individual figures. He emphasized the broader stakes. Quote, everything's on the line. The road to November 2024 is unpredictable, filled with unforeseen events. Watch.
So they've done everything they can by legal means, which are in fact extra legal means, if we're being totally honest, completely third world stuff, to take the opponent out of the race, and they're still losing. So, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. This is not going to be a race between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. I would bet my beloved fishing camp in Maine that that is not going to happen. That's not going to happen. So what will happen? Well, I don't know. One of like 400 distinct other possibilities? I mean, I just can't even, pick one. By the way, if it's Gavin Newsom, we all should be very, very concerned. That guy's scary, and I mean it. I mean it, scary. Yeah, but that's a whole separate conversation. But the point is, this will be forced. These issues will be forced soon, like in a year. And the road from here to November of 2024 is going to be filled with developments nobody in this room could foresee. I can promise you that. So it's about to get very serious, for sure. It's only leadership of the world at stake, which is also, by the way, we now know, the most lucrative possible political franchise in human history. So everything's at stake. What wouldn't they do? What haven't they done? What might they do next? Let your imagination run wild. So the question, the only one that you can answer is, how will you prepare yourself for that? And because that really is the only question. And I mean, my answers to that in my own life, I'll just tell you what I think. One, be a little bit more serious. Take this seriously. Much as you want to retreat and pretend everything is fine, sit down. It's not fine, okay? Two, maybe if you look across at the people you despise, the small group of people running this country, and it is small, it does not represent most people in America, it doesn't represent anything close to a majority at all. Again, just to restate, Donald Trump, who is hated as a blood enemy by over 40% of the population, and who's been attacked in ways that no political figure's ever been attacked in the West, is beating the incumbent president, okay? I'm not sure that's entirely an endorsement of Trump. To some extent it is, and his empathy, that's real. But it's also a sign of revulsion, deep dissatisfaction with what we're doing. So most people are not on board with this. But the people who are responsible for it are the most dishonest, the most ruthless, the most anti-human group I've ever dealt with. And I spent 35 years living in Washington. I don't even recognize these people and what they're doing. I really don't. It's so dark. They're doing things that can't even on an academic level conceivably help the United States or the population that lives here. Letting in 7 million people from the poorest countries in the world illegally and then immediately putting them all on public benefits? I mean, that right there will destroy the country. And they did that on purpose. So these are really, really dark people, the darkest. So I need to be the opposite of that. And I'm not a super good person. The last thing I would do is claim to be. But this is the moment to try a little harder to be a little bit better. This is not the moment to be drunk all the time. This is not the moment to tell lies. As they go lower, go higher. And there are many reasons for this. And one is spiritual. I'll just be totally honest. I do think this is a spiritual battle. There's no political explanation for it whatsoever. But one other reason is for the way that you feel about yourself. When you're honest, you are proud of yourself. When you're honest, you are strong. When you lie, you become weak. That is true. Tell a lie, you become weak. Why do you lie? Because you're hiding something. Because you believe that the people around you knew what you really thought or said or did, they would think less of you. That diminishes you. Your power ebbs when you lie. Tell the truth.
The air seems thick with uncertainty. Radio talk show host Hugh Hewitt has drawn parallels between the current political climate and that of 1968. In 68, Lyndon Johnson, after a lackluster win, declared he wouldn't run for re-election. Hewitt postulates that Biden might do the same, especially with controversy surrounding his family and other business transactions. Watch.
In his 80s. So why would an 82-year-old Joe Biden be the right person for the most important job in the world?
Because I've acquired a hell of a lot of wisdom I know more than the vast majority of people. I'm more experienced than anybody's ever run for the office.
There's a lot of roadblocks here. And look, everyone sees his age, and everyone sees the question of, can he really go a second term here?
Some doubts in Democratic circles. Here's the Wall Street Journal, though. Biden faces rough month as debt talks, potential border surge loom. Following the campaign launch, Mr. Biden's team declined to release his initial fundraising totals. People familiar with the early fundraising said the president didn't surpass the amount raised during the first 24 hours of Mr. Biden's 2020 campaign, when he brought in $6.3 million from about 97,000 donors, his campaign said at the time. Back with the panel. You know, we don't know. It's one poll, but it seems to track with others, Hugh.
It does. Gallup came in at 38% approval, so the ABC Washington Post poll 36 does not sound like an outlier. You got the money quote. It's the one I had written down. I have a hell of a lot of wisdom, and I know more than the vast majority of people. That's not how one runs for the presidency. And I asked myself, what does General Secretary Xi, what does Vladimir Putin, what does the Ayatollah Khamenei think about Joe Biden? And I think they think he's infirm, because that's what I see, that's what I hear. And I think the American people are coming to recognition he really can't do this. I'm expecting an LBJ 68 exit sometime next year.
You are?
Yes, because I don't think he can do it. And I don't think his wife's going to let him do it. And his friends certainly should be counseling not to do it.
So it's time to pay close attention. The next few years could reshape America, and it's crucial for each one of us to be informed and involved. In our republic, leaders are accountable to the people. As we stand on the precipice of change with looming elections and societal shifts, it's imperative to heed warnings like Tucker's. This isn't just a news story, it's a call to awareness for every citizen. America's future depends on our collective choices. We must stay informed and vigilant and ensure that our republic remains of the people and by the people and for the people. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. Now keep up your quest for truth with this next news report. And if you found our channel enlightening, join the millions who agree with you. Tap subscribe. Thank you for watching the Next News Network.